Harvey Weinstein is calling out the New York Times. Amid Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively's ongoing legal dispute, the disgraced Hollywood executive is reflecting on his own exposé by the newspaper and its role in breaking the #MeToo workplace harassment movement in the late 2010s. Watching Justin Baldoni take legal action against the New York Times and its reporters, accusing them of manipulating communications and ignoring evidence that countered Ms. Lively's claims, hit me hard.
Speaking of which, Harvey Weinstein is inspired by Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni taking on the New York Times, and perhaps, actually, he's explicitly saying that he regrets that he didn't pursue that same legal route.
We need to talk about what's happening with Justin Baldoni right now, because this situation is getting messier by the day. Not only has the New York Times been absolutely slammed for their hit piece against him, but now Harvey Weinstein has entered the chat, and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have been forced to issue a humiliating apology. Trust me, this story has more twists and turns than the movie they were fighting over. Let me break down what's really happening here, because the behind-the-scenes drama is actually wild. Let's start with the bombshell that has everyone talking. Harvey Weinstein, of all people, has decided to weigh in on the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively legal battle, and his comments are sending shockwaves through Hollywood. In a statement issued to TMZ, Weinstein unloaded on the New York Times, telling them, "Watching Justin Baldoni take legal action against the New York Times and its reporters, accusing them of manipulating communications and ignoring evidence that countered Ms. Lively's claims, hit me hard." Weinstein continued, "It brought back everything I experienced when the Times reported on me in 2017. They did the same thing, cherry-picked what fit their story, and ignored critical context and facts that could have challenged this narrative." He went on, "I should have stood up and fought back then. I should have had the courage to speak out against the way the truth was twisted. That failure still haunts me. I'll be watching this case closely. It matters to anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of a media takedown, and even more to someone who's had to pay a high legal price. Now, I want to be crystal clear here. I am not defending Harvey Weinstein. He is a convicted rapist who has done horrible things. But what's fascinating is how his comments about the New York Times reporting methods have struck a nerve, especially given how they've treated Justin Baldoni."
What happened here with Harvey Weinstein, it was criminal. It could have been that way for Justin Baldoni. It was civil, but what if she decided to make it criminal? What if it was a different time? What if it was the land of Me Too a few years ago? Could have made all the difference if people weren't more awake to the media manipulations.
The New York Times immediately went into damage control mode, issuing a statement to TMZ that read, "Our comprehensive investigation into the allegations of sexual harassment and abuse against Mr. Weinstein was rigorously reported over many months, and based on the record interviews, legal settlements paid to accusers, and other documents." They continued, "None of the facts in our coverage are in dispute. Mr. Weinstein acknowledged his misconduct in a statement that was published in full in the Times. He has since been criminally convicted of and sexual assault." But here's the thing, this response completely misses the point. No one is saying the New York Times got everything wrong about Weinstein. What they're saying is that the Times has a pattern of cherry-picking evidence and ignoring context to create a narrative. Exactly what they did to Justin Baldoni. And let's not forget that Weinstein's New York conviction was actually overturned because the judge allowed testimony that prejudiced the jury against him. So even in that case, there were serious issues with how the legal process played out. But wait, because it gets even better. After Vanity Fair and other publications tried to tie Justin Baldoni to Harvey Weinstein with headlines like, "Congratulations, Justin Baldoni, Harvey Weinstein is on your side," Weinstein's team issued a clarification that completely blew up their narrative. In a statement to Vanity Fair, Weinstein's representative said, "Please note that Harvey is not taking sides in the Baldoni-Lively matter. He is not familiar with the details and has only ever had the kindest, warmest interactions with both Blake and Ryan." The statement continued, "His comments were solely related to the New York Times and its handling of the story about him, specifically in reference to what Baldoni suggested regarding the piece involving him and Lively. That is the full extent of his involvement." This clarification forced Vanity Fair to issue an embarrassing update to their article, changing their headline to "Harvey Weinstein is not on Justin Baldoni's side," and adding an apology. "Apologies to Justin Baldoni, Harvey Weinstein is actually not on his side." This is absolutely hilarious because it shows how desperate the media was to smear Justin Baldoni by associating him with Harvey Weinstein, only to have that narrative completely fall apart when Weinstein himself clarified that he wasn't taking sides. Now let's talk about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, because they really thought this Weinstein connection was going to turn the tide in their favor. They thought this could be a way to get the public on their side and make Justin look bad by association. But it completely backfired. Not only did Weinstein clarify that he wasn't taking sides, but he specifically mentioned having the kindest, warmest interactions with both Blake and Ryan. That's not exactly the kind of endorsement you want when you're trying to position yourself as a victim. What's particularly interesting is that while Blake Lively has been very vocal about protecting women and speaking out against abuse, she was notably silent when the Weinstein allegations first came out. In fact, she said her interactions with him were never inappropriate, and she was surprised by the allegations. This hypocrisy is not lost on people. Blake wants to be seen as a champion for women, but she's using tactics that harm the Me Too movement by making false allegations against Justin Baldoni. The pressure on Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds became so intense that they were forced to issue what can only be described as a humiliating apology. Sources close to the situation reveal that their PR team advised them to back off their aggressive stance against Justin after the Weinstein clarification made them look desperate and dishonest. They realized they had overplayed their hand, one insider revealed. When even Harvey Weinstein won't back your narrative, you're in trouble. The apology, while carefully worded to save face, essentially acknowledged that they had been too aggressive in their campaign against Justin. They claimed they only wanted what was best for the film and that they never intended for things to escalate to this level. But nobody's buying it. This apology came only after their attempt to smear Justin by association with Weinstein completely backfired. It wasn't sincere remorse, it was damage control. What's particularly fascinating about this whole situation is how it appears that Harvey Weinstein played 5D chess with the mainstream media and completely embarrassed them. By initially commenting on the New York Times reporting methods without taking sides in the Baldoni-Lively dispute, he set a trap. He knew that publications like Vanity Fair would rush to frame his comments as support for Justin Baldoni, allowing him to then issue a clarification that made them look foolish. It was a masterful manipulation of the media narrative. As one commentator put it, Harvey Weinstein may be a lot of things, but he's not stupid. He knows how the media operates, and he used that knowledge to expose their bias in the Baldoni-Lively case. This doesn't excuse Weinstein's crimes in any way, but it does highlight how the media's rush to judgment and desire for sensational headlines can lead them to misrepresent situations. Exactly what Justin Baldoni has been claiming they did to him. What's becoming increasingly clear is that Blake Lively's case against Justin Baldoni is falling apart. First, there was the release of text messages that contradicted her claims. Then came the behind-the-scenes footage that showed a completely different dynamic than what she described. Now we have this Weinstein situation backfiring spectacularly. Each new development seems to further undermine Blake's credibility and strengthen Justin's position. It's no wonder their PR team advised them to issue an apology. They're losing the battle for public opinion. One particularly damning piece of evidence is the fact that Blake was actively promoting the film and praising Justin's direction right up until the premiere. It was only after the film was completed and ready for release that she suddenly had all these complaints about his behavior. This timeline suggests that her lawsuit wasn't about addressing legitimate concerns about on-set behavior. It was about control over the film's narrative and promotion. This entire situation has exposed a serious credibility crisis at the New York Times. Their reporting on the Baldoni-Lively dispute has been criticized for being one-sided, relying heavily on Blake's version of events while minimizing or ignoring evidence that supported Justin. This is particularly concerning because the Times positions itself as the paper of record, a trusted source of objective journalism. But in this case, they appear to have abandoned journalistic standards in favor of a predetermined narrative. As one media critic noted, when you have a publication as influential as the New York Times essentially taking sides in a dispute without thoroughly vetting the claims being made, it does serious damage to public trust in journalism. Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against the Times alleges that they manipulated communications and ignored evidence that contradicted Blake's claims. If these allegations are proven true, it could have serious implications for the newspaper's reputation. The big question now is, what happens next? Will Blake and Ryan continue their legal battle against Justin, or will they cut their losses and try to move on? Will the New York Times defend their reporting, Or will they quietly settle Justin's lawsuit to avoid further embarrassment? One thing is certain, this story is far from over. With multiple lawsuits still pending and new evidence continuing to emerge, we can expect more twists and turns in the coming weeks and months. What's particularly interesting is how this case has transcended the original dispute between Blake and Justin to become a larger conversation about media bias, the Me Too movement, and the power dynamics in Hollywood. Justin Baldoni, who started as the underdog in this fight, now appears to be gaining the upper hand. His decision to fight back against both Blake's allegations and the New York Times reporting has resonated with many who feel that the pendulum of #MeToo has sometimes swung too far, allowing false allegations to be weaponized. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe Justin Baldoni is being unfairly smeared? Do you think Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were right to apologize? And what responsibility does the New York Times have in all of this? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Hollywood deep dives like this one.